application. So we will take time to actually put a step-by-step guide, a technical step-by-step guide, including screenshots, processes, and everything. So what happens is anybody will be able to understand, and anybody within the IT will be able to execute this particular process if you are not available. That's the whole idea. So I'm creating a process so that people will do and follow. And please remember, your SOPs, your processes are also a checklist in the event your recovery process doesn't go well or it doesn't go the way it's supposed to be. You see, when there's no process, because everything is in my head, I'm smart, I'm genius, I know what to do. When something goes wrong, it's very difficult for you to do post-mortem. All right. So processes is for somebody to follow, as well as if something doesn't happen, we will also be able to check where it went wrong. It's as simple as, hey guys, did you do this? Yes. Did you do this? Yes. Did you do this? Oh yeah, this is the part I forgot or I overlooked. So it's easier for us to do post-mortem if we have a proper processes and procedures in place, right? And then implement plan administration and maintenance process. This is basically to talk about who is in charge, who's supposed to look into what, when do we update, when do we have meetings, okay, when do we make changes. So all this information will also be documented. Okay. These are some of the primary DR objectives. Okay. We're supposed to minimize threats and risk affecting IT and infrastructure, minimize impact of disaster and losses. So this is what we have been educating people. Whenever there's a disaster, if you have a BC, business continuity, and a DR, it doesn't mean that your organization will not have any losses. There will be. Okay. However, when we have a DR in place or BC in place, the major objective is to minimize the impact, because every company, they have this risk appetite, which has already been developed by the management to say that, hey, how much are we ready to lose during a disaster? So when we create DR and also BC, is to ensure that the organization keep to that promise or work within the risk appetite that has already been approved. Okay. Other primary objective will be recover critical IT operation within, okay, your maximum tolerable recovery windows. Of course, next one is your compliance. All right. If you're regulated, if you're compliance to any other companies, your partners, your clients, it's all compliant based. Okay. You're supposed to be doing this so that your organization is protected from legal ramification or lawsuits. All right. Sometimes, if you are a financial institution, you will pay heavy penalty to regulators if you fail to fulfill some of their requirements or if you fail to comply. All right. And your objective will be, okay, return to normal IT operation at original or new site as planned. All right. There was one case many years ago. There was one, financial institution, not a commercial bank, but still considered as financial institution. They had a disaster. You won't believe me. They had a disaster at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The IT people were going around looking for recovery site, okay, for the next 2 days because they were not prepared. Okay. I have seen this personally because that time I was managing a data center. I was managing a lot of clients. So they were practically going to every data center service provider asking for seats. Can you imagine? So they were actually doing this purely because of a poor planning, wrong assumptions, all right? Because they assumed that the location that they were in, they said it was originally rated as free of risk. Okay, so sometimes we overlook certain things purely because we do not analyze, from various aspects. Okay, so next one. These are some of the sections, okay, that you will have to have. If you have more, better. All right, but only things which is vital. Otherwise, these are some of the sections that you will actually have in your DR plan. You will have your objective, you will have your scope, you will have the policies, okay, and approval. You will actually have your management's responsibility section, which is declaration, your severity level, the charts, the flow charts, authorizations, all right? And then you will basically do a section for disaster definitions. You see, when we talk about disaster, it doesn't have to be just a natural disaster. All right. There will also be a classification for IT disaster, man-made disaster, natural disaster. So, what is defined as disaster for your organization has to be developed. All right. And assumptions. What do you cover? What do you mean by this? What is not covered in the plan? This is basically to safeguard this document and the people within this ITDR team. Because as I mentioned, user, they don't understand what is happening behind the applications that they use most of the time. As I mentioned, all they know is I come to office in the morning, I log in, it's there. When I double click the icon, the screen for me to put in my password will appear. The moment I put in my password, application will open. And first thing is I will be able to see the work that I've done till 6 p.m. yesterday. And I'm starting fresh today. Every time I finish something, I click the save button. I know it is being saved somewhere. That's all they know. All right. So they don't understand what is really happening. So the assumptions has to be there to ensure that you clearly tell them what is covered and what is not covered. Okay. Now, this is basically just for your understanding BIA section. All right. You will basically talk about again scope and objective. You will talk about your critical business systems and application. Okay. These are all the systems and application that somebody have helped you to identify or you are identifying yourself. All right. So all the critical ones that are supposed to be recovered, there will be a table that you will put in your plan. Okay, what is the recovery window? And you will also have a table for interdependency so that you will understand that these are the dependent for this particular application. Okay, or sub applications. It really depends. Okay, priority of recovery. So we will also have a priority list so that the people that working within the recovery processes will know that, okay, these are the applications that priority number one. So we will pump in more resources to recover this application. Then you will have priority number 2, 3, and 4 or 5. It really depends on how you want to segregate them. And then, of course, you will actually have the resources, what is needed, okay, in order for this particular application or system to be up and running. Again, last one is the vital documents that is required for us to bring this system and application up and running. So this will basically be covered in the BIA section. Next section in your DR plan are basically all the strategies that you have identified. All right. You will basically be talking about the framework and the approach, okay, to basically recover that particular system and application. All right. The list of recovery options that you have selected, the summary of evaluation on cost versus benefit will also be there. You see, sometimes this is something that I've seen. Depending on the severity of a disaster, I have seen clients have two strategy for same application. Severity one, they will basically do like, for example, online replication and all these things, or the way they recover. Or if the severity is severity 4, then they will basically do option number 2. To what extent that is effective, I'm not very sure because I personally have not tried it. But I've seen documentation with more than one strategy for one particular application. All right. So that is also possible, but as I mentioned, it really depends. Okay. Combination of recovery options. Okay. These are some of the DR strategies that you have selected. All right. We can actually put that in as well. You will basically have your org chart. And please remember, when I say org chart, this is not your business as usual organizational chart. All right. This is your disaster recovery organizational chart. So it will basically consist of DR management team, recovery team, damage assessment team, support team, salvage team. So all these people's information, that means their name, position, and phone number, will be in your disaster recovery plan. Okay. You will also have your escalation process in here, which will be covered in your framework and policy document, right? So your escalation plan, okay, roles and responsibility. Why we do all these things is because we do not want to assume that the people that we have selected to be in the DR team to know exactly their role and responsibilities. All right. So instead of avoiding, we don't want to have this chaotic situation. We want to avoid misunderstanding and finger pointing situation. So we will be very specific. All right. I usually avoid putting positions, just positions in my plan. All right. Because when there are change of people, I will change their name. But in my DR plan, I will usually create the exact name, position, and their phone number. It will not just stop at, oh, IT engineer, because I want to avoid this misunderstanding who does what. No. And everybody that we are assigning to take up a role will always have a secondary personnel to do the job in the event the primary person is not available. All right. Now, these are some of the people that we can put in our teams. All right. These are recovery team members. These are some of the people: IT operation, network, telecommunication, security, application and system software, database manager, hardware, software vendor support. Okay. So it's also good to actually include your hardware and software vendor as a part of our recovery team. All right. I usually do that. I will call them, I will brief them about the DR initiative, and then I will ask this vendor, the company, to assign 1 or 2 person for this particular initiative. And when we do a DR test, we also involve these particular people to be available on site to see exactly how we are doing the recovery. So it's a part of the initiative that I would usually suggest and do as well. Okay. So these are some of the support team members. Okay, all that you see here are support function: human resource, admin, physical security, procurement, facility management, corporate com, okay, and other services and utility suppliers. Okay, so these are all support. This is your emergency response. All right. You're supposed to document your emergency responses. Today, you will actually have your ERT, emergency response team, that or your facility management team that will be looking after the emergency response. All right. They are the one who will be developing your emergency evacuation assembly point and any other processes within the emergency response. So you can actually include them as a part of your recovery options. I usually do that. Okay. Because I don't want to create my own emergency response plan. Instead, I will utilize the one that has already been developed. Okay. So DR team management, DR team, okay, damage assessment, salvage team, support team. So everybody will be a part of your emergency response team.